rider in France in recent years, but he's now switched to triathlons, very fit rider. But this is something new for him. He says, it's my first Dakar, my first ever African rally. Maybe I'm a little bit crazy in doing this, but I wanted to start the Dakar. And being the 20th Dakar, of course, it's a little bit extra magical. So it was very important to me. So the 34-year-old, who actually lives just down the road from this first stage at Le Chartres, he lives at Montluçon, and had a little look at the stage before the competitors made their way officially on the first stage of this year's event. As for the front runners on yesterday's stage, they didn't really try too hard. They were being very careful with their machinery and looking forward to the event going on to Africa. So the likes of Stefan Peter-Hansel was down in 15th place, Yuri Arkerons was in 34th place. The cars had a tough time in the mud. The stage was stopped after competitor number 273, with the remaining cars and trucks being given the same time of that slowest vehicle, which in fact was about 45 minutes slower than the lead car, giving all the remaining cars and trucks a hefty handicap already. The Mitsubishis confirmed their pre-event status as favourites by taking the top 4 places, with Frenchman Bruno Sabi setting the pace 16 seconds faster than last year's winner Kenjiro Shinazuka. Sabi said afterwards that the stage had more closely resembled the RAC Rally than any African terrain they may encounter later, but it was important, he reckoned, to push right from the start. Fastest behind the Mitsubishis, the buggy of Jean-Louis Schlesser, but the conditions didn't really suit the other two-wheel drive machines, and the first pro truck was that of Larry Ragland in 9th position. Stories from yesterday, well, several of them as ever. The first retirement of the Dakar was in fact a 23-year-old Japanese student riding a Kawasaki in his first ever event. He was already tired when he reached this special stage, having ridden for some 200 miles. It took him 3 hours and 17 falls to complete the rather small stage. It was only 11 kilometers long, and he wasn't authorized by the stewards of the event to continue any further, not surprisingly. He has promised to train a little harder before he makes his return to the event. On the other hand, German enduro rider Herbert Scheck is back on the Dakar on a KTM this year. He's now 65 years old, but riding without his daughter this time, as she reckons she's getting too old for this kind of adventure. Just some of the heroes that take part in the Dakar, whether they be in 4 wheels or on 2 wheels. It's made up of a host of characters trying to test themselves out against nature as they go through the various different stages towards Senegal and the capital, Dakar. So a great variety of machinery competing, but no trucks taking part in the first stage. By the time the trucks should have gone onto it, it was just too muddy, too cut up, and they didn't think that they would be able to make it through at all. So the trucks had a bit of a day off, as it turned out, on the 1st of January. The competitors then continued down the N20, which runs through France, heading down towards southern France. It's quite a long drive or ride for them, but a lot of fans along the route, and a chance for the fans of the Dakar to celebrate and applaud their heroes. They watch it on French television avidly. It really is a huge event in France, but of course over the last few years they haven't actually had a chance to see any of the riders or drivers, as they've started from Granada in Spain, and indeed last year they started from Dakar itself, doing a loop, if you like, from Dakar and then back to Dakar again. So the French people really have got out and taken the opportunity to see their heroes as they make their way through France and on towards the ferry ride to Morocco from the southern tip of Spain. The amazing quads at present as well on this year's Dakar. Kenjiro Shinazuka bringing his Mitsubishi in towards the end of the day, having completed that small stage, but they did have to do quite a lot of road driving yesterday. to make their way down to southern France, ready for the start of today's stages. This rider, number 144, he's explaining that he'd actually forgotten to switch over the fuel tap from the rear fuel tank to the front fuel tank on his bike, but he got going again. And last night, all of the competitors arrived in Narbonne. The 20th anniversary is a good opportunity to look back over all of the different Dakars. And the first one, 1979, Boxing Day, it started from Trocadero in Paris. And that very first Dakar rally lasted nearly 3 weeks, over a total distance of around 10,000 kilometers. And 90 bikes and some 80 cars entered. No trucks started out on that very first Dakar. Of those 90 bikes and the 80 cars, there were 74 finishers who made it all the way to Dakar. They travelled through Algeria, Niger, Mali, and then into Senegal. They weathered a terrible storm around Agadez, and there were no factory cars or bikes entered in those days. The first ever Dakar stage was won by a Range Rover, that of Jackie Privé. One of the unusual entries was the Renault KZ 11 Cheveux 11 CV of 1927, the same model of car as used by Captain Etienne for an epic journey across Africa in that year. The event was won by Cyril Neveu on a Yamaha, while the first car home was the Range Rover of Genestier, Deviot and Le Mordant. And the Marot brothers were second in their remarkably resilient Renault 4.
Dakar vient de monter sur le podium, mon cher Cyril, et tu viens de terminer en beauté avec un beau soleil.